Well, a lot of the doing that is required to build these businesses are things that we all do not want to do. They take all of our energy and the life out of us and our passion. And so no wonder our businesses don't get big, because we will not do the things we've got to do, or we won't get good enough at doing those things. There's a very simple solution, and it takes a little time. You hire all the people to do all that stuff. So in the early days, if you are an individual that does not love the operational side or doesn't show up and think about it all the time, that's your first hire. One of your first key hires is getting an operational person. And it might just be an operations assistant at first. Just somebody that can kind of run the equipment around, go take equipment to the team when it breaks, go pick up supplies, go do an inspection on a property.
I'm excited to share with you Jonathan Pototschnik, the Lawn Care Millionaire's talk from the inaugural LCR Summit. So Jonathan comes out of the gate and he basically says, I don't think you're accomplishing everything that you should be accomplishing. Essentially, you're not reaching your full potential. And then he actually shares with us how we get laser focused and achieve and accomplish what we were put on this earth to achieve and accomplish. It's an absolutely epic talk. So without further ado, this was at the inaugural LCR Summit hosted by Naylor Taliaferro in Atlanta, Georgia, although his event moves to different cities. The next one's in Louisville, Kentucky and beyond. But this talk was given in Atlanta at the Creator Clubhouse, which is a cool venue. And we'll dive right into it with the Lawn Care Millionaire himself, Jonathan Pototschnik. Enjoy.
So I have a belief, and my belief is that you are compromising. You're compromising on whatever it is that you say you want and what you're actually getting and what you're doing to get that thing that you say you want. I want you to imagine one of two scenarios. Imagine it's November and you're sitting around with your friends. They're other business owners. They're successful. A few of them are maybe more successful than you are. You've been pretty frustrated lately. The business isn't growing like you thought it was going to grow. You're really kind of tired of a lot of the team members. You don't feel like you have the right team members. You aren't quite sure how you're going to grow this thing next year. There's just a lot of junk going on. But you're feeling pretty good, and it's the new year. And this last year, you put off some hires, and there's some things you didn't do that you had planned to do. But now in November or December, when you're sitting around with your buddies, you're feeling good, and you're dreaming about the new year and the off season. You're saying, this is what I'm going to do next year. This is what I'm going to get. I don't know if you've had that experience, but hopefully that resonates. There's something that's happened over time where you're like, next year we'll fix this. Next year we'll hire this person because it's kind of getting late in the season. If I hire them now, then I've got to carry them through the off season. So we'll just do it next year. It's all these next year things. And all these next years that we say, a lot of times they don't come to pass because we don't do them. And so what is that? What I'm trying to get at here is when you're with your friends and you're thinking about next year and all the opportunity, what is it you're telling yourself that you're going to finally do? Or it's going to be different? Or if that doesn't resonate with you, maybe here's another one. If you drink cocktails or beer or go out and have drinks sometimes with friends, imagine a similar scenario. Now you're out. Same thing, you're out with buddies, entrepreneurs. Some of them are really kicking butt. You're feeling really good. You got a lot of energy. You're having some drinks. The guard is down. You're dreaming a little bit. You're feeling good. Like, you know how a drink might make you relax a bit and you're a little bit more likely to say go for it or let your brain run and think. You all just sit there talking. What is the story you're telling your friends that is going to happen next year? Where are we going with this business in the next 5 years? What's that story? I want you to think about this. And I just want you to think about, because of where we're going with this conversation, like, what is that? I want you to feel what that thing is that you've been saying for years you want. This could be your business. This could be your health, how you're eating, how you're exercising. This could be what's going on in your marriage. This could be that you have kids and you don't feel like you're ever there and you're feeling guilty about it. There's these incongruencies that are happening. This is where I say we, you guys, me, we all compromise. When we compromise on these areas of our life that we say are important, but our actions don't demonstrate we're taking massive action to get those things. And I'm going to focus on this today from the business standpoint. Here in a second, I'm going to have you just think about this for a minute and write down what are some of the reasons why you might be compromising. But the reason why I feel really strongly about this is you and me are unbelievably fortunate in a world of 7 or 8 billion people we get to do what we want to do. We get to be entrepreneurs. We get to tomorrow wake up and build whatever we want to build. In 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we could have created whatever it is we want to create. It's just on us to go do the work to get it. The vast majority of this world does not have that opportunity. The vast majority of people inside the United States will never do this. Maybe they do, maybe they don't have the opportunity, they'll never get this. You guys get this. This is to be an entrepreneur and have real freedom and be able to cast a vision and then go get it over the coming years is not something that most people will ever experience or feel in their life. And the reason I bring this up is because you're in this very unique position that you need to go a little bigger and go for it. This is my general message in life. Go a little bigger, go a little faster. And I use the example of we are insanely fortunate. We get one go at this life. Go get the thing you want because almost nobody else gets to do it. You might have heard me mention that I'm really passionate about the 15 to 23-year-old group. That's where I think I might be going next, is to work with young entrepreneurs. The reason is I started at 14. I didn't know anybody that owned a business. I graduated high school with 100 people in my high school class. I lived in the country. I only knew one person in my life that I saw about every 3 years, which was an uncle that was a COO at a company that had money. There was no YouTube. I just did not know how to build a business. I didn't even have an example of how to build a business, but I started mowing lawns at 14 because I wanted to make more money than you could make at Dairy Queen or the local grocery store. And that little experience changed my life. And I believe I became a better husband, a better dad, a better leader to my company, created wealth. I've been able to give money away. I've been able to be an example to other people. I then got into coaching. All these things that happened, they all came from one thing. 14-year-old kid started mowing lawns and said, maybe I could make a little more money. Maybe we could do more. That's exactly everybody here. Maybe you didn't start at 14, but you are in an incredibly unique position. And so again, I say, where is it you might be compromising your life? And let's focus on it from a business example. So is it that you said you want a certain size business and you've been kicked in the face enough times trying to find team members that I don't think there are enough good team members out there. And so you've resigned yourself to go slower, or you've resigned yourself to build a company that doesn't require many team members, or whatever that narrative is. Is that a way you're compromising? And what that means is your business isn't becoming what it should. And as a result, your life and your example to other people is not becoming what it should. Does this resonate? Or maybe another example would be the way you're personally wired. You just like doing the work yourself. You love the craft. And you enjoy that so much, maybe you've changed the strategy and now you're doing the work yourself. But the problem is, if you do that, you're not going to probably get the outcome that you want. Maybe what you originally dreamed of when you started the business, or when you're dreaming and you're relaxed and you're excited and you have energy and you're talking to your friends. Or maybe you had some early mistakes in the business and you took on some debt. Maybe you took some money out of your house. Maybe you ran up the credit cards. There's a million different life events that could have happened to you. And now you feel like you're behind and you don't feel like you have the money to dig out of this thing. And so you've resigned yourself to, a good life is probably, if I could just you'll make up whatever number, we'll make up a number. I just made $100,000 a year. And I know that's not a small amount of money, but if I just made $100,000 a year, life's good. This is a good life. But it's not what you really wanted. And you settled, compromised in some way because it felt more realistic or more approachable or less difficult. Or maybe I'll just give you one more. You just simply are tired of all the headache of business. There's lots of stuff you have to do to build this business that you don't enjoy. It's not just a people thing. There's just stuff you don't like. And you're like, man, to get that, to be able to do these things, eventually I got to learn all this stuff and I really don't enjoy it. I don't want to do it. And so again, you've settled and you've told yourself a new narrative. And the new narrative is good enough. So I'm framing the problem for you here so we can talk about a solution. So if you would, let's spend just a couple minutes on the second page, if you'll flip it. Just want you to think about this, sort of have this in the back of your mind as we talk through the business. And then ideally, I'd love for you to keep thinking about this after we're gone today. Like, where is it that we're compromising? Where is it we've settled? And where I'm going with, I gave you examples, we're looking for the reason. Like, I think one big reason is there are no good people. There are not enough employees out there. So I've decided that a smaller business is better. And you can go smaller. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That's not really the conversation. I'm just trying to get you thinking here. It's really easy to leave an event and tomorrow you're back working, you're answering the phone, you're selling, you're doing whatever you do, and this becomes a distant memory that happens with it. I'd encourage you to, being that we're in the new year, continue to think about this. Keep this sheet on front of your desk and just think through this. Like, where is it that we are not living up to our ability, not living up to what we say we want? I think this is an important topic because I also believe that if we tell ourselves a story, this is the thing I want, this is the person I am, and then we don't do those acts to get that outcome, not that you have to get the full outcome of your dream. It's just if you're not doing the action to move the ball forward to get that outcome, then you sort of lose faith in yourself. You say you're one person, I say I'm one person, then we don't do those things. Like, well, am I really that person? And I believe that to a large degree, happiness comes from achievement and growth and improvement, and it comes from us being congruent with who we say we are and who we want to be and achieving that thing. And when we don't do that, we're frustrated. But we don't know why we're frustrated, but there's a frustration in our life. So I'm going to talk about this through of how do you solve for this. I'm going to talk about it through the frame of building a business. Again, when we're talking about compromising, it could be in the area of health. It could be how we show up to our family. It could be for religious or spiritual, how we're showing up in that area of our life. There's all these different parts of life that we may be compromising. But I'm going to talk about through the frame of business. And the reason I'm going to do that is back to my example of if you're young and you're starting, the experience I had, and for some of you, the same experience you had, the way this changes your life, building a business and who you have to become to build a bigger business, and then how that impacts how you show up to your team, your family, your friends, how you show up to your children. This is way more than about making money. This is way more than about building multi-million-dollar businesses. There's so much more here. That's why I'm passionate about this, and that's why I'm going to use, like, if there's one thing that can have a lot of it, there's a lot of things that have a lot of impacts, but if there's one thing that can have a tremendous impact for the next 50 years of your life, it's the business you build. So how do we go about building the business and maybe getting past some of the reasons why we've compromised? One last thing I'll say about that, there's a lot of creators in this room, or a lot of people that have a desire or a heart to create, or maybe eventually to coach. And I think that's fantastic. I'm passionate about the very same thing. And for some of you, I would say maybe the compromise will lead you to realize you actually shouldn't be sitting in this room for the business part, the building of the business. Or maybe you need a very clear plan how in 2 years you are not in the business. You are only a content creator or a coach or a mentor, or whatever that is, because that is who you are. And when you think about who you want to be and what you want to look like 20 years from now and how you want to be showing up in the world, it's that. You never think about the lawn care company or the pest control company. It's that. So, okay, how do you get there? So for some, maybe you shouldn't be doing this at some point. You need a plan today to get out of this. For others, I would argue that maybe the best vehicle to get you to a place where you are the best coach, the best content creator, the best example to the world, the best at helping other people get what they want, is to actually go build the bigger business. Because one, it'll give you money to go bigger, help more people. But two, in growing that business, you have to learn leadership and management and dealing with hard problems and getting past being constantly in your head and stressed. You have to learn all these skills. Those skills are what translate to all the outcomes I said about being and showing up different in the world and to your family and to your friends and such. Like you only get there by the process of building the business, because you have to become a certain person to even be able to have a $2 million, $5 million, $10 million company. And again, I'm not imposing this thing where you need to be absentee owner and have a $10 million business. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we need to go a little bigger than what many are going, or we need to go a little faster than what many of us are doing, because it gets us all the other stuff on the other side. What I sort of just talked about, the center of this is growth. What we're trying to achieve here for today's conversation is business growth. And I just for a second here kind of talked about why I think this is important. The circle to the left, that circle should say focus. If there is one thing that has been pounded into my brain that I have learned and that I believe is the unlock for the majority of companies, and I could spend 2 hours talking about this topic, that's the topic. It's focus. I've got a friend, Marvin's friends with this individual as well. His name's Jordan Webb. I started a coaching business in end of 2014. Really, we launched it January of 15. I had this competition called the Biggest Badass Competition. You won a $15,000 vacation to somewhere in the world. In his case, it was to Italy that year. But you had to demonstrate, competing against everyone else in the academy, you had to demonstrate how you changed your business and how you changed your life over the preceding year. And you had to put it to video, and it had to be voted by my audience at Service Autopilot. Jordan Webb won this. Jordan Webb was probably doing about $180,000 when he joined, and the next year he finished the year, if I remembered, around $600-something. He didn't have the highest revenue of the people he's competing against, but he made a big difference in his business. He grew it, but he also made a big difference in other areas of his life. There was more to it than business, but he won this competition. And based on him winning that competition, I would have thought that Jordan was going to be at $1 million the next year, and $2 million, and $3 million, and $4 million. But interestingly, a bunch of other people in Academy passed him up. And he did good, and he did become seven-figure business. But in my conversations with him, for whatever reason, he just wasn't growing at the pace that I thought he would grow based on that early experience. Jordan lives in Alaska. He had a lawn care business. He had all the normal lawn care stuff. He was doing landscape work, if I remember correctly. I think at some point he started doing decks. He just ran into lots of challenges. Lots of really difficult things happened. And his business just never became what it should have been. Today, though, well, let me go back. A few years ago, crazy enough, now it's 5, his wife Kylie was getting very sick. And they went to Maui one year, and they were in Maui for 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, a lot of her symptoms massively changed. Like, she became so much healthier. It was a life-changing thing. The other thing you need to know about Jordan is Jordan now has 8 children. These are people that started at 16 years old. They have an interesting story. And by 21, they had 3 or 4 kids. So young individuals, a lot going on in their world. They had 8 children, married. Kylie was getting sick. It was very difficult. Doctor says, you need to leave Alaska for Kylie. What's Jordan to do? His business hasn't turned out to be as big as he thought it was going to be. And now he can't even, how's he going to start a new business? Well, long story short, they go to Maui. And what happened is he was forced to figure it out. How did he figure it out? He started doing some of the stuff we talk about in Academy. And I'm skipping parts, but he got rid of everything. Landscape. He got rid of it. He got down to just basic maintenance, had some guys running that for him. Then he started to figure out who his best clients were, what the best, the ticket size, what the best ticket size was, what they were good at, what they were fast at, what he most enjoyed. It was decking. Today, his business is a multi-million-dollar business. The only thing decking, he lives in Maui full-time. He does go back to Alaska periodically. They sell 100% of their average $20 ticket deck over the phone with pictures from the client. They never meet him in person. He runs the entire thing remotely from Maui with a team back in Alaska doing all the work. The reason I tell you this story is there's only one reason he can do that. He got rid of everything in his life except for one thing, decking. And he thought every single minute of the day, how do I solve for this problem? It's the only thing he did. It's the only thing his team could do. It's the only thing they could think about. They eliminated all the complexity around billing. There's only one thing we do. We do decks. Here's how we get paid for it. There's only one kind of material we buy. There's only a few little pieces of equipment you need. There's only one kind of person I need to hire and train. There's only one way we mentor and coach people. There's only one kind of client we're looking for. There's only one of a million things. It's all around decking. And he has a vision, and he is contacted fairly frequently. He has a vision for how he could take this business national just doing decks. That's focus. Early days of City Turf, I did everything. Irrigation, landscape, all the maintenance, you name it, I did it. Commercial, residential, HOAs, actual retail locations, big residential, small residential. I hated the business. I despised the business. I want to be in technology. Why was I in the lawn care business? Why am I doing this? That's what I thought every day. This is terrible. My employees were not great. I wasn't making any money. The summary is my whole life changed because a business partner said to me, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. You don't need it. And so I essentially reimagined the whole business. I got rid of all the employees but 3. I got rid of over half the clients. I took the thing down to only $200,000 in revenue, and suddenly we started making a lot of money, and I had to spend almost no time on the business. That was the inspiration for what became CityTurf. And the way we have operated City, we don't do any. I'm not talking anybody out of landscape or design build. I'm not talking you out of any service. I'm just talking here in terms of being very focused. The magic in CityTurf, the reason why we went fast is we got rid of everything. We moved to the only way we work with you is we charge your credit card. And that solved a lot of the billing problems. We didn't have to deal with the landscape side of progress billing or understanding cash flow or just all the complexities of that business, which what happens with those complexities is you go slower. You never know if you have enough money coming in to grow the thing. Again, no comment on a landscape business here. They could be incredible businesses, massive, make tons of profit. But what I see, and the reason I use this example, is it is the takeout. It takes most people out in the green industry. Never build big landscape companies. And so I just use that as an example. But CityTurf, the unlock was getting incredibly focused. This is our ideal client. They live in these 5 cities. This is what they look like. On average, they're women that are 33 to 54. They have 2 children. They live in a $400,000 house, whatever. We knew exactly who they were. We knew exactly how we were going to serve them. We only used one piece of equipment to mow the lawn. We talked to them a very specific way. We ignored everybody else. Today, we're a $15 million business. We still only serve the 5 cities. I say I live in Dallas. I don't actually live in Dallas. I live north of it. I don't serve Dallas. I serve 5 cities north of Dallas. I believe I can build a $30 to $40 million company without adding maybe more than 1 or 2 more markets because I believe I can dominate with the strategy we have. It's a story of simplicity. You add complexity as you get bigger, but as an example with CityTurf, you add that complexity when you can afford to add the complexity. As an example, when we added pest control, I didn't just go hire a tech. I went and hired a guy away from this company called Home Team who managed multiple divisions for Home Team and pest control. I just hired him to come in and run my businesses. He had the licensing, he had the know-how, he could recruit the guys. When I started Arbor Care, I didn't start it, the guy that runs my company started these things, but when we started Arbor Care, we just went and hired arborists. We waited and then, we got the 80,000, we'll go hire the arborist. And now we have many arborists. And so we didn't get the licensing ourselves and try to figure it out ourselves. We kept the business simple. We eliminated complexity. And then business started to scale so much faster. We were able to save more money. We were more profitable. Then we just go, when we're ready, we add the next service line when we can just go buy the solution, hire the person, the done it person. Does that make sense? So the thing I really want for you is, I really think this is arguably one of the single most important things in business. How can you simplify what you're doing right now? How can you eliminate the complexity? The complexity is what makes you tired. The complexity is what makes it hard. If you're doing 6 different services and you have to train people 6 different ways, you have to have specific types of people for those services. You have to have different kinds of equipment, different kinds of trucks. You have different kinds of clients. You build those clients in different ways. That's complexity. And then you're like, wow, I don't know why my business isn't growing. I don't know what's wrong with me. I really believe that a lot of entrepreneurs think something's wrong with them because they meet me or they meet somebody else that's ahead of them. They're like, what's wrong with me? I grew up in the country and I graduated from a high school class of 100 people. I came from where you came from. The only thing is I'm older than many of you probably, and I started young. And I decided, thankfully, in life, this is what I want to do. I cared about money, but my drive was not about getting wealthy. My drive was, I like this. These are my people. This is what I want to do in life. I want to figure this thing out. And we all will share the same story here. And I just was so fortunate that some things went wrong early on. One example would be the early days of CityTurf. It was miserable. I hated it. I did not want to be in this business. And that one thing my friend said, you don't have to do it, which resulted in the change, taught me one of the greatest business lessons I've ever learned. And I've applied that to everything I've done in life since. When I owned Service Autopilot, I owned CityTurf, I owned a coaching company, I have some other things. I'm on a board of a robotics company. There's a number of other things I do. If you think about what I do, even though now it's at scale and I have hundreds and hundreds of team members, everything I did was congruent with each other. So what I learned in City Turf would help me, and this was not accidental. This was a lesson I learned, and this is how I built it. City Turf taught me what a client might need at Service Autopilot. Taught me how to talk to them, how to teach them, how to build for them, how to relate to them. Service Autopilot and City Turf together taught me even more things that allowed me to become a coach. I'm building a 40-acre real estate development. What am I doing there? It's for service companies in the trades. I am very consistent. I stay in a specific lane and I just kind of build on the thing before. I'm not in healthcare. I'm in robotics from lawn care standpoint, robot mowers. I don't do healthcare and I don't do single family home investing. I don't do lawn care and I don't do technology in, some other completely different space. That is, I'm kind of at scale now to some degree, but this is it's an example of focus and simplicity. It's the unlock. So again, I could talk about this simple topic right here, but how can you start to eliminate steps from your business where you get very focused on a very specific kind of client, doing a few services, billing a specific way, having specific team members using very specific equipment that is consistent through the whole company. They're all trained the same way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what doesn't seem intuitive is if you take a step back and you get that complexity out, that the thing will actually go faster. It is legitimately, if you go this route and you simplify, it is legitimately a step back for a moment. But as soon as you free up 40% of what's going on inside your brain and you make it more clear on who we hire, who we serve, what we do, and how we do it, it will then speed back up and it'll be much faster than doing lots of things. And it's scary because doing lots of things is how we naturally think about selling more revenue. And also, many of us want to serve our clients. Client says, can you do this? Yeah, I want to help Miss Smith. She's awesome. Hey, can you go to this area? I've got a little service area and my house is only, half a mile outside your service area. You can do it? Yeah, we'll do that. Next thing you know, 3 months later, hey, it's only, you look at the maps, it's only a quarter mile away from that house. We're already over there. Yeah, we'll do that. Next thing you know, you're going everywhere. Those are examples. So again, we could talk for hours about specifics, but how can you simplify this thing? I'll say one more thing about this. One way you think about this is in terms of how to do this. What is it you despise? And what is it that when you go to bed at night, you're thinking about it? When you wake up what services, what types of team members, what types of clients? When you wake up in the morning, who are you thinking about? Who's driving you nuts? Who are you angry about sometimes? Where are you frustrated? What sucks all the energy out of your life? You come home, you can't show up for your family or kids because you're just wiped out. There are things that are sucking that life out of you. We need to get those things to a degree. Can't get them all out of our life. Part of building a business, we got to do a lot of things. We got to do a lot of chores, as you might say, that we don't want to do. But there are things we can frankly get out of our world. What are those things? Another way you look at this is, let's say you're doing 7 service offerings. You look at your P&L. Hopefully you have a P&L. And if you look at your P&L, and basically that tells you we made $98,000 mowing lawns. We made $72,000 trimming bushes. We made $114,000 doing landscape. We made $6,000 doing aeration. We made $4,000 doing mulch. It's not quite this simple, but you can look at that and stack rank it and say, okay, $4,000 in a year doing mulch, $6,000 a year doing aeration, gone. We'll come back and rebuild and add those services later. But this $4,000 stuff is a joke. We're not making any money on that. And it's probably having us run all over the place, use lots of brain cycles to make $4,000. It's distracting from what matters most. Let's grow landscape. Let's grow mowing, our 2 biggest services, or whatever that case might be. So that's a way you actionably think about this. We think about, where is this sucking the life out of me, the owner, the leader, the person that's got to have high confidence and high energy to get this thing to where it needs to go? Where is it sucking the life and energy out of my people? Why are people unhappy with this company and they leave because they aren't good at these things? We as a company aren't good at these things. We're not good at coaching them and they hate them, doing these things, and they leave. You're thinking about things that way. Make sense? All right. This is a ridiculous statement, but to a large degree, building a multi-million-dollar business is really not very difficult. Problem is, when you've never built a multi-million-dollar business, it is really difficult because you don't know what to do. But when I think back about it, having now been in many businesses, actually getting to $2-3 million is really not very difficult. And I know that sounds stupid. If you simplify the business significantly, There's only two things you have to worry about through millions of dollars: recruiting people to do the work and selling work. If you want to just like get really elementary here, yes, you got to do accounting. Yes, you got to, charge credit cards. Yeah, you got to buy trucks. Sure, there's lots of activities, but there's two. If we stack rank the 80-20, there's only two things we do. We figure out how to get incredibly good at attracting the right clients to our business and buying from us. And then we get really good at hiring people to do the few things we sell. And that's it. So City Turf, I haven't ran City Turf since 2012, maybe 2011. I got somebody that runs it. I started the business as a part-time business. We went from $0 to $1 million in about 5 years, and then we went from $1 million to $10 million in 5 years. So in 10 years, we went from 0 to $1 million. It was a part-time business. I was happy with the growth at that time. Also, within 10 years, we were making about 21, 22% net extracted out of the business. So it was a very profitable business for me. I was very pleased. I'm not as pleased today because it's a $15 million business now. I will give us credit and say we reinvented the revenue of the business. We started out as a heavy mowing and bush and bed company. We did other services. Like I told you, we had got out of most services. So we built to 10 million roughly on mowing, bed and bush, fertilization, weed control. Fertilization, weed control is a small part of the business. Today, we only do about $3 million in mowing. It's profitable. It's a good piece of the business, but we make most of our money doing fertilization, weed control, arbor care, and pest control, and irrigation. But irrigation's kind of a smaller part. It's maybe 5 crews or something. And it's frustrating that we are not keeping the pace of growth that we had. In my opinion, we should be a $25 million company. But I don't run this company. I have an incredibly awesome individual in the company. He's awesome, so I'm not being negative on him whatsoever. He runs an incredibly profitable business. We're missing now the marketing and aggressive side of the business. We are operationally, I would start any business with this guy. He is operationally phenomenal. Efficiency, phenomenal. But he doesn't, and he'll say it like his passion isn't the marketing and the growth of the business. He optimizes for perfection and stability and profit and efficiency and great happy team. He doesn't optimize for speed. And so when I get back from New Zealand in March, I'm going to start working on the City Turf business with him for a little bit. It's not my long-term plan, but for a bit, I'm going to do that because I need to be there with him for a little while to push. We got to go faster. Here's how we go faster. I need to get the marketing engines firing again, etc. So the reason I tell you this story is what's wrong with that business, and to say something's wrong with it is not entirely fair because it's an absolutely awesome business. But what's wrong with it from the perspective of it's not growing fast enough is we're missing a key person inside that business. It's somebody like me. It's somebody that is a growth-oriented, go faster, push, push, push kind of person. What I have is a great operational management. And together, if I were to actually work this business full-time, Philip and I are a wonderful pair. I think we could go build amazing companies together. And if I were to go build amazing companies, I'd love to do it with him. The reason for that is I have absolute respect for him. I have absolute trust in him. He is exactly the kind of person I want to work with in life for a million different reasons. But I need to be there to challenge and push him. If Philip wasn't in City Turf and it was just me running it, we'd have a whole different set of problems. So having Philip be very operationally strong is really makes for a great team because then he slows me down. So where I want to go faster, 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 next idea, Philip's like, wait a second. Like, no, we need to slow this down. I've got to people over here. I got to train these people. We can't do that. I got to actually fulfill what you're about to sell. And so he slows me down and I speed him up, and together we make a great team. So when we talk about the people component of your business, like performing the work, in the early days, you just need to get the technicians to go out in the field and do the work. Then you start to need some management. I can tell you right now, the shortcut, just the quick answer is when you're going to 3 million, your two, outside of hiring people to do the work, your two most important hires out after that are who is answering the phones, doing the billing, helping with the scheduling, selling over the phone, things like that. That's some office people you start to add. And then for the majority of this room, not everybody, your other most important hire in the business is an operational manager. And so oftentimes, going back to my story, and we're all wired different ways. Some of us are very operationally strong and we're missing the sales and marketing component. Who do we partner with? Who do we bring into our organization to push us in that area? Many entrepreneurs tend to, again, this is many, but not all. It's not required. It doesn't even mean you're a better entrepreneur if you do what I'm about to describe. Many entrepreneurs tend to love to live in the future. They tend to jump around more. They like the next shiny object. They like the next idea. It's part of how you became an entrepreneur. And they're notorious for building their business somewhat quickly and then hitting a plateau and never getting past it because there's too much switching cost going on inside their business. They're jumping from thing to thing. They're jumping to the next idea. They're pivoting like, oh, wait, I have a buddy. Oh, I heard about this guy, Jordan. He's doing decks. That's the thing. That's the break. We're going to do decks. And they're jumping around. And then you look back, you're like, why is it? It's been 10 years and we're $500,000 because we kept changing the plan. And that creates all kinds of chaos inside the organization. So I told you a story of me and Philip being the ideal team. What you're trying to, once you start getting past the building, just having the team members that produce the work, now you have to think about this, and you can get to low millions of dollars with very little management, operational management, and office team. And that's about it, to be frank, because you can outsource marketing. I would encourage you to not fully outsource marketing. You can outsource accounting. There's like so many things you can outsource. You can keep this thing somewhat simple if you've simplified your business model. But as you start to get into the millions of dollars, now you have to start thinking about where are the gaps in the business. A gap in any business I start is operational strength. And it's not that I don't know what to do operationally. I hate that stuff. I hate having to show up every day and do the same thing. I hate having to show up every day and have the same conversations. And I need people that will show up for the next 9 months and just make it a little bit better and a little bit better. It's the old, can you just become 1% better every week or every month or whatever that saying is? I just need them to show up and make our world a little 1% better. I do not need them starting a new division or trying out a new line of equipment or whatever the other ideas are that Jonathan might have because he loves going fast and new and change. And so you have to figure out who you are, and then you have to build around you. And you have to figure out who your key and people are and what are their strengths. What are they good at? What do they get energy from? What do they like? Build around them. Does that make sense? I know that part there is starting to get a little higher level. So the reason I told you again that City Turf story is Service All Pipe was the same thing. I hired a COO from the beginning of that business because I learned that's who I need with me to build a really good company. Who do you need with you? Because here's what's probably happening. You're tired. There's a lot of stuff you don't like. You're frustrated. Your business is never going to get big if it requires you do the 90 activities that you hate doing. Why? Because you won't do them. You'll procrastinate them. And so why do you tell yourself next year is going to be different? We're going to do that next year? Because when you say next year, it's immediately a relief to you. It's as though we've accomplished it. You get that dopamine hit. Yes, it's going to be better. That's fixed. I feel good now. But no, nothing changed. All you did was, kick the ball down the road and think you're going to actually do it. It's kind of like all of us trying to lose weight. I'm going to start in the new year or whatever that thing is. You feel good about it. Like, I got a plan. I feel good about now. And then New Year comes around and we make it 8 days. Then we feel like crap again. It's because there's a big gap between the telling ourselves we're going to do a thing and getting the end result. It's the doing. Well, a lot of the doing that is required to build these businesses are things that we all do not want to do. They take all of our energy and the life out of us and our passion. And so no wonder our businesses don't get big, because we will not do the things we've got to do, or we won't get good enough at doing those things. There's a very simple solution. It's hard because you got to come up with the money and it takes a little time. You hire all the people to do all that stuff. So in the early days, if you are an individual that does not love the operational side or doesn't show up and think about it all the time, that's your first hire. One of your first key hires is getting an operational person. And it might just be an operations assistant at first. Just somebody that can kind of run the equipment around, go take equipment to the team when it breaks, go pick up supplies, go do an inspection on a property. Miss Smith is upset about something, go out there and hope, if they're good enough, maybe they can have a conversation with her, but at a minimum, they can at least go inspect what you heard over the phone. You don't have to do that. There's all these little activities that are $10, $15, $20, $25 tasks that you can hire somebody to get, 30% of the stuff off your plate. You don't have enough money to hire whatever the operations manager will cost, but you can get an assistant. That person may grow into being a manager, they may not. And then when you have a little more money, and really it's not like you have to have, they're a $70,000 person or a $65,000 person, you don't have to have the money in the bank, you just have to have the cash flow to support them, be able to write that check each month. Then you go get that person. When you get that person, now 40% more things are off your plate. Now your brain's only thinking about, sales and marketing or growing the business or whatever the case might be. And the thing just starts picking up speed. And the way we pick up speed is all about building people and team. But again, that can seem intimidating. But the reality is the early days are who can produce the work? How do we sell the work? And then when we have too many people, it's like, wow, this is quite a burden on me because I'm really distracted. I'm not spending enough time actually selling the work or finding the people. I need to get operational help. Oftentimes before that even happens, you hire somebody in the office. That's really the progression. And I'm telling you, with 1 to 2 office people, depending on the complexity of your business, an operations manager, and you, outsourcing a number of other tasks to experts like your bookkeeping and accounting, you'll build this company $3 million as long as you're not doing too many services and they're not too complex. That's why I say it's kind of that simple. It's not. It's really hard. And it's hard because we got a lot of things we have to learn to be able to do what I just described. And so the reason I tell you this is it is imperative that you get really focused on those two things, people and marketing. Everything else is noise. You just got to be hardcore about saying what is the most important stuff, and then looking at yourself and saying, I said the most important thing is getting great people to work out in the field, but am I spending 1 hour, 5 hours, 10 hours a week on that? Am I congruent in what I say is the most important thing and what I do, how I live my life, how I show up? And if you are only spending a couple hours a week on recruiting, but people are the most important things, the individuals that will actually do the work, and having them so you have confidence to even sell more work because you believe you'll be able to produce it, if that's the most important thing, where's your time being spent? Okay. So we haven't really talked about how you hire people, but I want to tell you one more story around this. So hiring is horrible. I don't think I have to tell anybody that. There really aren't a lot of incredible people that are just easy to find, but there are a lot of incredible people out there. They're just not easy to find. So your competitors all have them employed. And every time they get scared they're going to leave, they pay them more money. And so it's hard. Also, the general trend is this labor problem isn't getting fixed by some possible recession that might be coming, which I'm not sold on is coming this year. And there's not labor's got a little better, but it's not about to get freed up. If you think about macro trends, where is the world going? Labor, even with or without recessions, is not about to become widely available to us. The demographic trends, the changes in our country are such that we don't have a great pool of labor coming. The great pool of labor, parents are telling them, should you be in programming? Should you be working a white-collar job? Whatever the case is, they're not telling their kids to mow lawns, to trim bushes, to do HVAC, whatever the case might be. I thought I heard recently that the average age, and this could be totally wrong, of a master plumber is like 57 years old now in the United States. We've got a systemic problem in this country. This isn't getting better. All right, so the reason I tell you that is if you're waiting for magic, and we're just going to kind of wait till that recession comes and all the people get freed up and then we'll start growing this company again, you shouldn't do that. It's not coming. That's my belief. If labor gets massively freed up, we have a different problem. You're going to have a really hard time selling work because we're in a mess. That's the way I think about this. All right, so we have all the same problems you have. City Turf would say, we haven't spent $1 on marketing in 7 years. City Turf would say, our bottleneck is we can't get enough people. And this is one of the reasons why I want to get back involved and help them. We can get enough people. It's just expensive and very difficult. So 2 stories, and I am thinking I'm going to go about 10 minutes over. Where's Marvin at? Marvin, 10 to 15, okay? If I do it? Okay, thank you, sir. All right. I used to be part of this cleaning company. We cleaned movie theaters around the country. We cleaned all the major movie theater chains in 22 states. That was a company that preceded City Turf. My business partner in that company is the one that said, if you don't like it, why are you doing it? Kind of thing about, the lawn care business. And our model in that business was, and some of you might have heard this before, the model in that business was we'd win a Cinemark in Ohio or we'd win a Cinemark movie theater in California, and when you're cleaning 20 or 30 auditorium theaters, there's only so many of those. They're all spread out throughout the country. You don't build density. You don't build offices in Ohio to clean the 20 theaters in Ohio, whatever that number is. So what you do is when you win a theater and you get a contract, you put a guy named Rudy or a guy named Oscar on an airplane, you fly them to Ohio, they go to McDonald's, they go to Walmart, they go everywhere that somebody that might clean buildings might live or have a family member that does it, and they pass out cards and brochures and they talk to people. Do you know anybody that would like to clean that needs a job? And then you collect names and phone numbers and you give out your phone number and you say, if you want to have a job, meet us at 11:30 on Tuesday night at the Cinemark on this road in Ohio. You got a job. And we have 30 people that show up. And we train 30 people how to clean a Cinemark. We only need 6, maybe 7, depending on how many auditoriums. We train 30 people. While Oscar or Rudy lives in Ohio for the next week, they mentor these 30 people. And by the time we get to the last day, we have let everybody go except the best 6. And we have picked one of those people and said, you should own a business. We want to help you own a cleaning business. And these people now all work for you. Here's your shirts, here's how you set up a business, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't have to pay us anything. We just put them in business and give them a vision. And now they're cleaning the Ohio theater. And if they do a great job, we win another Ohio theater, we're like, hey, got another theater. I can help you find 6 guys, 7 gals, whatever. Want to clean that theater and be that one too? Some of those people become district managers and they manage 10 theaters and they live on an airplane and they fly around. Like, that was how we built that business. Think about that. Yes, labor was a little bit easier back then, but there was different sets of problems with labor back then. So this is like 2004 to 2008. That's the time frame of this business. And when I was involved in it, and we solved the problem. We had no choice. There was no other business model to hire and recruit. City Turf. City Turf says, we can't build this business. We can't handle all the leads we get. We can't build this business fast enough. Not enough good people. Then we don't get 130 H-2B visa, something like that, people in 2017, I think it was. We don't get them. And we don't get told we're not getting them 2 months in advance. We get told at the beginning of March when our season is starting, they're not coming. I don't remember. I'm getting it a little bit wrong, but roughly it was a disaster, to the point that Philip says, the conversation in the company is, maybe we need to give away about $6 million in revenue to our competitors because I don't know how we're going to serve it. Well, that's just, and again, I'm being a little dramatic here. Philip didn't really want to give away $6 million, but that was the conversation. I'm like, well, that's kind of the dumbest idea I've ever heard. We just spent the last many years building this. There's no way we can do that. And he agrees. We got to solve this problem, but he's thinking, this is going to be the worst next month of my life. And he probably was the worst next month of his life. And but we're going to figure this out. And we, in 30 days, hired 100 people. And we had the highest number of complaints we'd ever had in the business. We left a gate open and 2 incredibly awesome young dogs got killed. And we now own a monument at the SPC in Dallas in a building and a whole bunch of other stuff to make that right. And things went wrong. But we kept $6 million in revenue. And we kept growing the business. And we learned a lot. And my point is, we say we want something, but we don't take massive action to go get it because it's not easy. But then when life goes wrong and our backs to a wall, somehow it's magically now possible. And I'm telling you, it's possible to get team members and build a company. So if one of your compromises is, man, there's no good people, I'll settle for a new dream. We'll keep this small and I'll pivot and I'll go start a different business or whatever that story is, it's BS. You can get the people. Your competitors are getting the people. Brickman is not a or whatever the Brightview now. They're not a multi-billion-dollar or whatever revenue company they are because they can't get people. They get the people. City Turf gets the people when they need them. There's lots of really big companies that get the people. It's possible, just going to have to spend more of your brain power and time and a little bit of money on this problem. Okay. Last big item here. So I talked about the people part. The other side is the marketing part. I want to close the loop real quick on 2 things on this people thing. One, I think I was clear on this. As you're building, you are one person and you need people around you that can do the things you hate, don't like, suck the life out of you. That's an really important thing to know and think about the rest of your business career. How do we fill gaps around us so I can keep my energy up, my excitement up, and keep my foot on the gas pedal because I've got other people helping me do things. I'm hiring, I'm built. It takes time because we don't, it takes time to accumulate the money or the cash flow to be able to do it. But who's the next most important person on the team to get stuff off my plate? Okay, that's one concept around people. The second one that I didn't explain and I want to mention is I want you to kind of imagine you have these two machines inside your business. There's two machines that are firing, or it could be kind of like a assembly line inside a manufacturing plant. So imagine you're Frito-Lay and you've got a assembly line, and the potatoes have to be sliced, and the potatoes have to then go on the conveyor, and they got to get fried or whatever they do with them, baked. Then they got to get seasoned. There's all these steps. If one of the steps breaks, as an example, if they don't get fried properly, then they don't get to the next step, which is seasoning, which slows down the entire line. Well, there are two similar concepts. There are these two machines in your business. One machine is the people side, the producing of the work, the engine to bring the people into my company, the engine it's part of the same engine to train them and mentor them and grow them into being able to produce the work that we sell. And then the other machine is that of sales and marketing, getting the work. So these things need to be in balance. And this is why your brain needs to be freed up to work on these things. As an example, what happens is if we're really strong at marketing, or we have, like in COVID, there was lots of lead flow. Wasn't that hard to sell a lot of work in COVID? A lot of businesses grew, not because the businesses were great, not because we were geniuses, because there was a macro trend in the world and people wanted to spend their money. And so our businesses grew and things went good. Macro trend ended. Now we're like, wait, where'd all the leads go? My marketing company sucks. Those SEO guys are terrible. I'm firing them. Like, we got all these new narratives, but yeah, the market changed. And so in the moment when tons of work was coming in, that machine was just kicking butt. It was firing. But was your machine operating to go do all the recruiting and find the people and train them? And if it wasn't firing and it wasn't spinning, then you couldn't take a lot of the work that came in. And so you didn't grow the business like you could have grown the business. And if you don't believe that you'll have the people, you don't spend the money on marketing. You don't even bother getting good at marketing to sell the work. The inverse of that is you're really good at getting people, and there are a lot of people that want to work for you, but you don't have the engine to produce the leads and drive the business, and so you never hire the people. There's a confidence game here. If you're going to hire people, you got to believe the work's going to show up. And if you're going to spend the money on marketing, you got to believe you can get the people. And if you don't have faith in both of those things, you keep your foot on the brake. Because I can't take more work. We shouldn't spend more money on marketing because I don't know if I can get the people. Make sense? And so this, again, why, and this is why this is the entire game. There's two things you have to think about. How do I get the people? How do I get the work? And that's pretty much the only places you need to live for many millions of dollars of revenue. And you got to figure out how to get those two things to some degree in balance. And the way you know if you're doing this is back to what I said earlier. Are we spending an hour working on marketing and we're spending 5 hours, 10 hours working on people? Like, how much? Where's our time and effort going? So really, post today, think about that. There's a machine in your business. One is people, one is marketing. How do we get them in balance? And they will never be in perfect balance. You're like, we got a little more people. We need to get some more clients. We've got a lot of leads. We don't have enough people. Like, these things will constantly get out of balance as you grow. That will never change. And so you're kind of bouncing back and forth working on these things. All right, last item is the marketing side. So we talked about the engine of people. Now let's talk about the engine of marketing. And I'm going to keep this kind of simple. I think Keith is going to talk about this. I'm going to also do this a little bit different. I'm going to do this since this is a content creator event. I'm going to talk about this a little bit from the perspective of content. So many of you know me because of Service Autopilot. Many of you know me because of Lawn Care Millionaire. Lawn Care Millionaire was created to be a lead channel for Service Autopilot. It's the only reason I did it. And I found out I liked it. But it's the reason I did it. And I had no idea how successful it was going to be having such a small channel, how incredibly successful it would be. When I started Service Autopilot, or pretty quickly in it, if you came into our organization and you went through our onboarding process as a team member, we had a 6-week onboarding process to coach you up as a team member inside of the business. You got this document from us that laid out where we were going, what the goal was in our business, what we were trying to accomplish inside the industry. One of the things that document said was that we, at the heart of our organization, is teaching and training. And the way we build our core strategy to grow this business is through teaching and training, or a content strategy, because that was the heart of our business. Not only to grow the business, but also once you became our member, to try to help you get more than just operational efficiency through software, but how do you grow your company? That was the heart of the organization. That's how we thought about who needed to be on the team. That's how we were going to grow this business. We wanted to have, the document said that, and we had a date, I don't remember, we want to be able to look back on this date and say, because Service Autopilot existed in the green industry, the green industry is different. You don't do that by just creating a software tool. You do that by being the heart of your organization, being coaching and training and teaching. And so this Lawn Care Millionaire thing, while very small, built a coaching business. It built tens of millions of dollars in revenue. It contributed to it in the early days. It really almost single-handedly brought in our first, not really single-handedly, but it was the single biggest channel that got us to our first 1,000 pilot clients. It was incredibly successful. Having had that experience, my lens on any business is, how do you create authority? How do you, and you create authority, how do you create influence and authority? So I try to solve, and I shouldn't do this, but every problem that comes to me, I want to solve it by solving, I want to solve marketing challenges through authority and influence. It's the single most cost-effective lead channel inside an organization. It costs a lot of money to do Google Ads or eventually Facebook marketing or door hangers or whatever the thing is you do. If you look at your data over time, the single cheapest way to acquire clients is through content, teaching. That is over time builds authority and influence in your market. And so, because I want to solve every problem that way, I want to create that inside CityTurf. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but that experience I had, Lawn Care Millionaire being the single most important marketing thing I did for a long time inside Service Autopilot, has really influenced me. Also, back in the day, we were really good at constantly communicating with our clients via video. Not everybody watched it or saw it, but we were good at it. It was even from even a non-selling standpoint, we did a lot of video communication with our clients. This is where I did quarterly updates for years. Here's what we got done in the last quarter. Here's where we're going next quarter. Here's what we're anticipating that is coming in 2013. That kind of a thing. Okay, just so successful. So I'm going to kind of hold that thought for a moment. But that's when I think about marketing, I would say, how do you build that in your business? There's a million different things you can do to market your business, and I just want to tell you. This is why I said I want to keep this kind of brief. I just want to tell you what the most important things are, especially the most important things when you don't have much of a budget. The most important things, I believe, are content. And maybe it's not a podcast necessarily. It's not even a YouTube channel, but it's answering the questions of your client via video and via a blog post. I'll explain that just a little bit more with an embedded video on your website. There's a lot more needs to be done around this. I'm keeping this kind of basic, but Lawn Care Millionaire was nothing more than, the tagline of Lawn Care Millionaire was, ideas to make you a Lawn Care Millionaire. I was never saying I'm the Lawn Care Millionaire. I was, but it was not about me. It was actually about you. It was Lawn Care Millionaire. How do I make you a Lawn Care Millionaire? You have a question and a problem. I want to try to help you figure that out and answer. That's all that channel was. That channel would not work today. YouTube's too competitive now, but that's all I was doing. And the reason it worked is because you were getting an answer to your problem. Your client who wants to buy your lawn care service, your pest control business, your whatever business you own, they have a million questions. And they call your company for these questions to get answers, or they never get them answered. All those questions should be content. They should all be answered. And without going into a lot of detail, there's a guy I know named Marcus Sheridan. I've brought him in to speak at a couple of my events. He's got a book called You Ask, They Ask, You Answer. Buy that book. You could probably summarize that book down to like 6 pages, but basically your client has a question. Why do you price so high? Do you do this service? What month should I install these flowers? What kind of flowers should I buy? How do you kill mosquitoes? Yeah, those should all be videos. Now, when you're talking to your friends who are creating content in the business space and have, 1 million video views, and your video has like 3,000 views, you're going to feel like this is a waste of my time. It's not, because even if you have a small number of views, they're connecting with a very specific audience, solving for a very specific problem, and it's very scalable. So one of the fundamental things that needs to be part of your marketing strategy is creating content. One more thing about that. There's a million SEO, this is my opinion. There's a lot of SEO companies selling SEO. SEO is really actually a content game. SEO is not about constantly getting backlinks anymore. It used to be, and it's not about constantly optimizing your webpage. It's about creating content. So a lot of companies are spending $2,000, $2,500 a month. It actually cut part of that budget, and pretty significantly, if they just start creating content. All right, so what are a few other fundamental things? Content, reviews. This is not going away. Moving into the AI world, reviews are just going to become more important. How much of your time is going into capturing reviews and getting reviews? This is very durable. Like the amount of time you spend on content, the amount of time you spend on reviews will pay you for the rest of your business. It is going to hold up and going to last. So it's where you allocate a lot of time. Building a referral system to get your clients talking about it, not just a way in which you encourage referrals. In City Turf, we had a gift card strategy where I'm not going to go into the whole detail, but we had this thing we called a gift card strategy, which is how we want to get our clients to refer. We give them something that they can give to others, and that person can save $50, but then we also give that client a gift. We had a strategy to get referrals. It brought in referrals. This is the outside content, the second cheapest way to acquire clients. So it's another area you spend time on developing. Trucks, uniforms, signage. Like if you don't have that, like that is step number one. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be clear. Your stuff has to be branded. Has to be. Like the idea that it's not is a massive misstep if you haven't done that yet. And you don't have to get expensive about it. Find the cheapest company that can spray your truck, and then find a sign company where all they have to do is, the vinyl, and it's not wrapping the truck, it's just a sheet. Like, this is incredibly imperative. The last two I would leave you with, think about obsessively, how do you wow your clients so you get them referring and you get them talking about you? Like really spend the money to invest in making them really happy and providing a good service, because over time, that is how you create a brand. You create a brand because they constantly see your trucks. They see more and more of your trucks in the neighborhood, and the people in the neighborhood talk about you as being really good and high quality and dependable, and you bill on time and all those other things. It takes a little time. It's an investment in the future, but that's how you build a brand. And the last item, which is these are all the absolute cheapest ways to grow a business, is you do go out and you do Google if you can afford it. You do Facebook if you can afford it, ads. You do door hangers. You do all these things if you can. I'm just giving you the bare essentials, like the non-negotiables, in my opinion, that are very inexpensive. The other one is you sell back into your client base. Now, this goes slightly against the idea of simplifying your business. So for some, you might simplify your business down to just pest control. Okay, there's nothing to sell back into the base. I mean, other than like maybe there actually is. Ant treatments, mosquitoes, those are typical add-ons on pest control, and they're sort of our termites. Those are add-ons. So that's something you could upsell. Or maybe you do pest control, fertilization, weed control, and you do one other service. How do you constantly talk to your pest control client about adding fertilization, weed control? So you're thinking about, how do I grow the revenue of the business? The cheapest way to grow the business is sell more to the clients you already have and expand that way versus going and getting the next client. Not saying you don't go to the next client, but that's the big stuff you want to think about. So in wrapping this up, the thing that for marketing, I think I was clear on this. Those are the basics. You have to do those things. So many other things we could talk about for hours and hours. But since this is a content group, the thing I would like to challenge you on is, and I do not have the answer for this, how in the world do we build a content strategy for Miss Smith, who is buying pest control, lawn care, whatever, plumbing, whatever the service is in Dallas, Texas, or in Nashville, Tennessee? A little tiny piece of that strategy is what I described as answering their questions via video. That's a piece. But that's a piece where Miss Smith, and maybe more likely her husband, even though she is driving the conversation happens. When Bob calls you, it's because Miss Smith said, we got to get this done. And Bob's like, I ain't doing it. But Miss Smith is running the house, and she's your buyer, whether you talk to her on the phone or not. So Miss Smith does not give a flying flip. Marvin, am I still okay? I'm almost done. Okay. %. My advice is you have your team or whoever's answering the phone, when you're out selling, you're documenting everything they're asking. That becomes part of your content strategy. Yes, 100%. And so we're trying to build a content strategy that is more than Miss Smith or Bob has a question about how do I get rid of mosquitoes, and he consumes a video maybe one time. Or maybe when he becomes a client, he consumes another video or two because we are sending him marketing, and if he's interested in that thing, maybe fire ant treatments, he watches a quick video on understanding that service. He's really not, like, Miss Smith is not tomorrow saying, man, I'm really going to follow that City Turf channel. I can't wait to find out, how we take care of ants, or, how to do some service ourselves. She couldn't care less. She'll never look at it again until she has another problem. She needs an answer to a question. How do we build the thing from a content strategy that she cares about? And the ways I think about this, and I do not have this answer, and I'll just give you the punchline here. I want to solve this problem. And because this is a content creator room, if you want to solve this problem, because I think this is would be a massive leap forward, I want to talk to you on the phone, and I want to figure this out. So if you ever actually put a lot of time into this and say, okay, as a content creator, how do I build this for my service company, not educating other service companies? How do I do this? I would love to talk with you. And I think about it in terms of, if my wife is scrolling on Facebook, she's looking at, we have bulldogs. She's looking at bulldog videos or French bulldog videos. She's looking at maybe a cooking video. She's looking at some kind of a husband, and I've seen her watch these husband and wife things on Facebook where they're doing funny things and are laughing. I don't watch them. I don't know what they look. They're like, she doesn't watch the same stuff I watch. And so I need to get my head, and my team needs to get their head in. Our buyer is generally a female. What does she care about? I have 16 females in my office. How can I make them part of my video story and my content creation? How can I bring personality to that business? I think that's really smart. I think that's smart. You can also use ChatGPT to give it a, yep. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yes, the goal would be, how do I stay in front of them in the most cost-effective way? Stay in front of my market. Miss Smith is my general potential future client. She's my buyer rep. How in my market do people keep thinking about us? Yes. Yeah, it's part of, like, I'm not a big branding person per se, because we're just in a small market, but how do I stay in front of my market and stay visible to them so that when they have pain in 3 weeks, and the pain is, I need this pest control problem solved, they think of City Turf because they see the trucks and they're constantly seeing us pop up in their social media feeds, whatever those feeds are. And video to me is, I love audio because there's no greater thing than having somebody listen to you in their ear for an hour. It's incredible. But I also love video because they feel like they know you. They feel like they have a personal relationship with you. And so how do I create those things? But nobody's doing this. I tried to ask this question yesterday. Nobody is doing this successfully because it's really hard, because they don't care about our businesses. And why should they care about our businesses? So what is that content? I'll give you one more example here. I think about, how can we create contests? I don't know if these are good ideas. I'm just trying to brainstorm it. How do I create contests where they're sending in pictures, they're the cutest dog, And we're running those videos, and then we're awarding a prize, and our clients are competing, and that's going on our social media. Or their kids dressed up at Halloween, or a cool event they did in their property, or whatever. How do we get them to become part of even the content story where they share it and other people look, it's like, oh, that's cool, that's fun. You know, like a mom's, dads too, but moms care about that, how you're dressing your kid up for Halloween. You know, they think about these different things, and they will consume some of that content. Like, how do we get our heads around that? Okay, perfect. So if you guys keep working on that, I would love to talk to you. So that was my kind of I'm going to say one more thing, but wrapping this up, that is my challenge to you. Since this is a content event, nobody is doing this right. Even Marcus Sheridan, who is creating, you know, went around teaching the concept of owned a pool business. How do you educate the market and help them understand buying a fiberglass pool versus whatever the typical pool is? That's just a teeny piece of the content strategy, and it's great and it works really well, but it's not enough. And so how do we solve this? All right, thank you. The last thing I have for you, Marvin, do you want to give up 5 more minutes, or do we need to get going? Are you sure? All right, I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, let's spend 5 minutes on this last item. And I would like you to really spend more time on this if you're flying home on the airplane, or this weekend on Sunday if you got a few minutes. It's the bottom of that original page. At the top, you wrote down what are some of the areas where you're compromising, and it was from a business perspective. It doesn't have to be a business perspective, and it shouldn't be just a business perspective as we move forward here and you brainstorm this. But what is that dream that you have 5 years from now? You want to be solely a content producer, and you don't even want to be in the trades anymore. Or you want to build your business to some number of millions of dollars so that it can better take care of your family, and you want an operational person running the majority of it, where you spend about 15 hours a week on it, and you're predominantly living in the world of content creation. Or maybe it is that I love content creation, but what if I could do that for my services company? And as a company, we do that, and I build a really big company that we could sell someday, or that will provide such an incredibly different life for myself that I can't even imagine what that might look like. What is that? And again, these are all business things. You should also be thinking about how am I showing up as a dad? How am I showing up, or a mom? How am I showing up to my team? I've come to really like this word as I think about this problem, this word of a business athlete. Like, how do the very best person in our team's life, and how do we build a really great company? It's by having a high level of energy. How do you have a high level of energy? You eat right, you exercise, you do all those things, which are really difficult because we're also very busy building the business. And that's another example of it. Is that an area in your life where right now you're like, hey, I really need to work on this thing? And I've been in that area many times in my life where it's like, hey, I'm really being kind of weak in this area, and then my energy level's down, and I'm not showing up as the example I want to be to everybody else. And so I got to fix that. What are the areas where you're not showing up the way you want to show up that may not be about building a bigger business? And when you say, if you were to wake up in 5 years and you were to see your life, this is what I would be like. This is what my family would look like. These are the things we say are important as a family. These are the things are important as a friend, as a kid to my parents. This is what my business looks like. These are the kind of people I work with. This is the kind of group I'm in and the peers I'm surrounded by. This is what does that look like in 5 years? And then, how do we stop compromising? How do we start taking the actions that can actually build it? Even if you don't nail that, even if you get within 70% of it, in 5 years, you wake up and you say, I have been congruent with who I believe I am and who I say I am, you will be happy with yourself. But if in 5 years you wake up and you say, I said I was a person that was in shape and high energy. I said that I was going to be at 60% of my kids' games, or maybe coach my kids' little league team, or whatever that thing is, but I didn't do it, you will not be satisfied and you will not be happy because you weren't congruent with who you think you are. So I encourage you to go for it. So maybe make some notes about what 5 years from now looks like, but keep working on it after we leave here. Thank you very much.